Hi there and welcome to another Scratch coding video with Mr. Caldwell. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a user interface that includes different backdrops or different screens and navigation buttons. Now that doesn't sound too exciting, but these skills are essential if you want to make projects such as games or interactive projects such as ebooks. Before we get started, we want to plan our project. This will save us a lot of time in coding and a lot of time in finding errors or bugs in our program later on. It'll also help us to create sustainable code and to use our time wisely. So from our home screen, we want our users to navigate to each of the backdrops, like this. To do that, we will create 5 buttons on the home screen. Then we need to think about how can our users get from each of our backdrops or each of our screens back to the home screen. So we're going to have a home button. Now I'm sure you've all played games or had ebooks or an interactive project where you can always get back to the home screen no matter where you are. Next, we need to think about how do we get from each of our backdrops or each of our screens and move backwards and forwards. So how do we get to the previous screen and how do we get to the next screen? So there you have it. This is our plan. We need to create this user interactivity. We need to create those buttons. So follow me now over to Scratch and we'll get started. Here we are in Scratch. Because we're creating our user interface, we will not need our cat. So I'm going to come over, right click the cat and delete. You will see that Scratch instantly went over to our stage backdrop here and highlighted it. If I come up to Scripts, Backdrops, Sounds and I click on Backdrops, this is where I can change this backdrop. Because this first backdrop, remember, is going to be our home screen. Before we do anything, we need to do the most important thing. That is to come down to the bottom right hand of our screen and click Convert to Vector. Now Vector makes it a lot easier to add text and pictures and colors to your backdrops. If you stay in bitmap mode, that will almost be impossible. So the first thing I need to do for my home screen is I need to name it Home. That's because when I start coding, backdrop 1 is not going to be helpful to me. I want to call this Home. And this is what it will be called when we get to choose this backdrop in our coding later. Now I want to label this actual backdrop so that we can see it as the home backdrop on the stage, because at the moment we can't tell what backdrop it is. So I come over to text and I write home. And what you'll notice on the stage is I can see this is my home backdrop. So while I'm testing my program, I know when the home backdrop appears. Next, we need to create backdrop 1. As you can see from our plan, we've got home backdrop, and now we need to create each of the other 5 backdrops. From here, I can simply duplicate this backdrop. I need to relabel it BD1, so when I'm coding, I'll be able to easily recognize it. I'm going to come over and delete the home label because it's not home, it is BD1. I want my backdrop to be grey. If you remember in our plan, all our backdrops 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 were grey. So I'm going to come over to rectangle. I'm going to then drag right across my backdrop, make it the size of the backdrop. I'm going to come to my paint can tool. I'm going to come down to grey and I'm going to click inside the rectangle. Now you can see my backdrop is grey. but I need to create the label so that I can tell it is backdrop 1. So I come over to text and I start typing BD1. The only problem is that that text has appeared grey because that's the last color I used. So I just highlight it, come down to black and click, and my text turns to black. And this is another reason why we're in vector mode, because it is so easy to change your text. Now what you'll notice is that BD1 and home are different backdrops. One is grey, one is white, one's got the home label, and one has the BD1 label. Now that I prepared BD1, which is the same as the other backdrops, I can simply duplicate it, right click, duplicate 5 times, and you'll notice that Scratch calls this BD1, BD2, BD3, and so on. The only thing is that our labels on all our backdrops are the same, so we need to change this text, what it looks like. So we're going to keep BD1, we'll come to BD2, we'll double click on the text, highlight the 1 and click 2. Do the same for 3, 3. Do the same for 4, and 5. And now when I click through each backdrop, they have the correct name both in their label and on what we see on the stage. So with that in mind, we have actually created all of our backdrops. In the next video, I will show you how to navigate through your backdrops.